This here is another viewer's broken gaming PC, and well, I already see a problem that I wish I had seen in the parking lot when I picked this up. It apparently powers on, but doesn't send a signal to a monitor. This would explain why. I don't normally kick off fix or flop videos this way, but I figured, well, since I noticed it right away, I should show you as well. That graphics card is not all the way inserted, which, well, may have been from transport, may have also just been that way since the start of these issues. Now you may be thinking, well, duh, Greg, of course you're not gonna get signal out through a card like this that isn't slotted all the way correctly into its respective motherboard. But this is where the holdup is for me. The description clearly mentions that the system was working fine and then abruptly didn't. There's no mention of transport in between. Just all of a sudden, on a very specific day, the system would not send a signal out. And last time I checked, graphics cards don't just randomly work themselves out of PCI slots. If they did on a frequent basis, that would be a big problem for you and me. So is it possible that there's more to the story than meets the eye? I have a sneaking suspicion there is, and we're about to find out. I hope you'll stay with me.
Are you sitting on a gaming PC without an activated copy of Windows? Forget $100+ retail keys. Instead, snag an OEM Windows 10 or 11 key for a fraction of the price to unlock the full potential of the OS. Oh, and don't worry, they'll still remove those pesky activation watermarks. Click the links below to get started today and easily activate with your key under the activation tab within Windows settings. And be sure to use our special offer code SKGS for a sweet discount on a variety of options, including Windows 10 and 11, Pro and Home, and more.
Hello there, and welcome to Fix or Flop, a playlist where we attempt to fix broken gaming PCs in and around the Orlando, Florida area for free. So we don't charge for the labor you see here or replacement hardware, if any, applies, and that's because of your viewership. So thank you so much for watching. Also, I just want to throw this disclaimer. This is totally off topic, but I was thinking about this as I was filming in this bright orange shirt. I am kind of a McLaren fan. I like watching Formula One, and so when you see me wear shirts like these, I have a Ferrari shirt as well that has a lot of Ferrari sponsors on it. This isn't necessarily an endorsement of any of the brands on here. I honestly haven't really paid much attention to the others apart from this Dell Technologies logo. We've been sponsored, I think, a couple of times in the entire channel's life by Dell or maybe by Alienware, but just because you see me wearing a Dell logo because it's affiliated with the McLaren F1 team, that doesn't mean that I'm endorsing or getting paid by any of these brands in this video. I just like Formula One. I like Formula One teams, especially teams with heritage like McLaren and Ferrari, and yeah, that's really all I wanted to say there. Now, if you or someone you know has a broken computer and you'd like a chance to have it fixed for free in this series, be sure to submit a form linked in this video's description. We'll get back to you as soon as possible. As for this monstrosity, this case is definitely unique and it is missing a few panels, yes. That's why it looks even odder than it normally would. Before we power it on, I'm just gonna slot the card in all the way. There's no sense in powering this on as is because of course it's not going to work. So we'll fix the obvious and then see if we still end up with the same symptom described by the owner, that being no signal out. You'll probably notice there is a big open area back here. I think there's another maybe piece or two missing from this chassis apart from the left and right panels. And that could also explain why this card popped loose during transport. It definitely shouldn't be this way. The owner was describing a sort of like fitment issue with this card as it pertains to the case. And I can definitely see what he's talking about. This card barely fits as is. So I'm just gonna carefully insert the card all the way, and it's just, it's kind of cringe, but it's just gotta hang there for now. I know that's gonna be difficult for you all to see, but the card is fully inserted. And you've also probably noticed this card has sort of like a reverse sag going on right here. This is not good. I will just start off by saying that you don't want any flex in a card, downward or upward, because any of that flex that extends to the PCB and specifically the GPU, which is sort of in the middle here, could deball or partially deball that chip or any of the memory chips around it. That'll give you, at best, stability issues, and at worst, a completely hard bricked card. And it looks like this mechanism here is responsible for that. So let's see if I can, I don't know how this works. I'm trying to loosen it here so that we can get the card to sit a bit lower on this side. Definitely better now that I've adjusted a screw near the back against the motherboard, but you can see the card still hangs closer to my left side here, and that's because, again, we don't have any support at the rear of the case. This needs to be rectified with some sort of paneling or piece that is missing. I hope that this doesn't come out again during transport. We'll have to make sure that we let the owner know of this when we drop it back off. I think we are now in a better place to at least attempt a power on. We'll just see what happens here. So flipping the switch at the rear, power button up front. Okay, It might not look on from your perspective. There are a few lights. It's fairly quiet. CPU fan is on. Graphics card fans, well, those aren't on, but that could just be because the card's not hot yet. Nope, and would you look at that? Already managed to get a picture out. So it does look like the card not being seated properly in the board was the only issue. Since the owner mentioned a black screen or what he thought was no signal he couldn't get out of, I wanted to see how long it took this rig to go into either sleep mode or just to turn the display off, and it actually took a lot less time than I expected, around 30 seconds. Thankfully, just click a key on the keyboard or click the mouse and we're back in business, but this is, again, a very short amount of time for something like this to happen and could create some confusion. I'll run a few burn-ins off camera just to make sure we don't have any stability issues. So far, everything seems great, and apart from the fact that the screen is just randomly turning off because of the timer being set so aggressively, everything else seems healthy here. And this is a very new card. In fact, it's still under warranty and was something the owner was willing to send back to the manufacturer and get a replacement for if it ended up being broken. But if we look back at some of these viewer submitted photos, you'll notice that the case in its natural habitat is still missing the bracket to support the graphics card. I can't tell from these shots if the card is still halfway inserted into that uppermost PCIe slot, so I don't know if that was the prevailing issue here, but it was clearly an issue when we received it, and it looks like that was the only thing that needed to be done to get it to work again. It is, however, likely that this issue even existed in the first place because of the case. What do I mean by that? Well, this is a fairly large card. That's not the card's fault necessarily, but it's a beefier card. You expect these to be larger, the shrouds will be larger to handle the heat produced by these chips, and the card does fit front to back. I mean, it's not too long in that sense, but this chassis is very narrow. I'm honestly not a fan of what I see here. I don't think I would ever want to build in a chassis like this, but the owner wanted to give it a shot. He thought it looked cool, but the card is just too wide for such a narrow frame. What he describes having to do in order to get this card even situated in here is connecting the card to the board outside of the case first and then sliding everything in from the back. Apparently, the motherboard tray portion of this chassis slides out from the rear, and that is the only way that he describes being able to get the graphics card situated. And if you ask me, it's not even fully situated because we're missing some structural support here on the card side. So this all around, not really a great setup. I think a lot of that has to do with the case. So I've already talked this through with him. We're going to swap it out for a great one from our good friends over at Be Quiet. I mean, you just look at something like this and you can't help but cringe. The last thing I want to do is send him home with a card still loose like this, and then the issue repeat itself all over again. We're back to square one. So we're going to take all of these components out and throw them into a brand new 501DX. Be Quiet has made subtle changes to the original 500DX, which I'm happy about because that case was fantastic. We built in it many times already. This adds subtle RGB accents. So there's integrated LED strips and things that you don't necessarily have to use, but it's all there already. There's no pre-planning, no wiring of any kind. You wouldn't even know it was here if you didn't power it up. Now, I know we just came off a video talking about how we shouldn't be pairing smaller motherboards with larger chassis. The unwanted empty space below is just not great for aesthetics. It won't hurt performance, obviously, of any kind. In fact, it might aid in performance since you have more space for air to travel. We are using a larger graphics card though, so that's going to help cover up what is otherwise unused below. This will also not hinder him in terms of expandability later if he wants to upgrade to a full-size ATX motherboard. All that to say, if Be Quiet did offer an MATX version of this chassis, we would be using it, but they don't. So let's maybe change that, Be Quiet. Look at that, you get sound damping material as standard, and you get 3 included 140mm Pure Wings 3 fans with PWM support. They are a continued sponsor of this channel, and I just want to give them a big shout. This case is fantastic. You can check it out via the links below if you haven't already. I guess I'm gonna have to remove everything the same way the owner installed it all because this card will not come out through. There might be a way to remove this bar. I don't know for certain. Yeah, I'd have to remove a bunch of different panels to do that. So I'm just going to try sliding this motherboard tray out from the rear, which I think is all being held in by a single thumb screw. Oh no, that was not being held in by a single thumb screw. That was just for the hard drive cage. How did he get this out? I'm honestly just like pulling pieces off. I don't. Okay, there we go. So that's the bar that I'm assuming was the thing preventing the owner from being able to install this card through the left side panel. So now this card should come up. Okay. Just a few screws to take care of. And out she comes. You can see we've got a few stragglers. These standoffs came out of the case because the screws for the board were torqued down a little too hard. Don't want to forget the power supply. Carefully thread these cables through. Don't want to take this bracket with us, just 4 Phillips screws here. Bye-bye green case. And we'll be sure to carry over this 2.5-inch SSD. Oh, he used the wrong screws for this, dear God. Like, I love how he tried. Like, he tried to get these all the way in, but you see that screw's just sticking so far out. And I don't think it's the right threading either. That's probably why this wasn't willing to play ball. It's time to move to something a bit more civilized. We have an integrated rear I/O shield, so no worry there. Easy does it. Just a few screws to go. I was also sure to relocate standoffs for this MATX board. You want to be careful of that because you could end up shorting something on the back side of the board if the standoffs are not moved to their correct locations. Be Quiet gives us a convenient place to mount 2.5-inch SSDs. We'll do the Samsung one here up top, and we can situate it like so. Honestly, a pretty clever way to get SSDs in here. Moved one of the extra 140s to the front, so we'll have 2 now intaking fresh air. Dust filter going on, and then the front panel will just clip in. And this, of course, has baked in LEDs because why wouldn't it? Power supply install is pretty straightforward. Just slide it in from the right side. I'm a big fan of how simple this is. You know, the brackets at the rear, I thought it was cool back in the day. This is just easier. A lot of cables that are getting tucked in right here. Here comes our card, and this case is perfect in depth for it. You can see we'll actually be able to static mount this to the chassis with a couple of screws, as nature intended. Wanted to spend a few minutes cable managing. This case provides plenty of leeway there. We were able to bunch up tons of cables, no custom extensions, so that's gonna save us a bit of time, but it didn't require a ton of effort to make it look something like this here. Now, the only other thing left to do is install the graphics card, and we'll make sure we do it the right way this time. Now, I'm not big on removing plastic. I like to let owners do that because it's a very satisfying feeling, but this does say to remove protective film before use, and that's probably because the card gets very hot. So I'm going to take that liberty just to be on the safe side. It would have been easier to do this with the card not installed in the case, but so be it. And what the heck, we'll take care of this as well. I think the owner left this on because he wasn't sure if the card was bad. It would just been easier to return it with the plastic on, but we know this thing works perfectly fine. And when it's all said and done, if I do say so myself, this looks a lot more formal. I think it looks a lot more put together, like there aren't missing pieces, and it comes down ultimately to personal preference, but I would always choose a fair degree of function before I ever started focusing on aesthetics. We did make a small exception in the sense that this case supports motherboards larger than the one in this rig, but all in all, I'd say we've handled it nicely. We ran cables between the motherboard and the tray to keep them from kind of like spaghettiing up from farther below. There are small ways to work around situations like this, but I think the case swap was warranted just from a strictly functional standpoint. The card is actually stable now. We don't even have anything propping up the card near the front, and it still looks so much flatter. There's very little sag here, and it is significantly more stable. It would be wrong of us to not at least triple check that the system powers back on and loads into Windows as it did before. Once we corrected the graphics card issue, you can see everything is illuminated now, very cool looking, and I think you can even customize the lighting with the click of one button. Let's see. Ah, that one there. There we go. So all kinds of different effects and things. It'll give the owner a little bit of creative freedom if he wants to experiment with that, or he can just turn them off completely. This here is our post. We didn't change any hardware other than the case, but it seems to have not liked the fact that we did that. So we'll click F1 to hop through the BIOS, or maybe we just won't and it'll just do it itself. It is showing that Windows is loading. Come on now. Hey, there we go. All right, no harm, no foul. The case swap was a success, and let's send the good news to the owner. He'll be happy to have a system that now no longer crashes when he's playing games like MapleStory and League of Legends. Thank you so much for watching this one. It ultimately was a simple fix in the end, but we took it a step further just to make sure that this doesn't happen again. I want to remind you that we do have that link below if you would like a chance to have your broken PC fixed for free in this playlist. There's just one thing left to do, and that's, well, bring this back to the owner and break the good news to him. Thankfully, we have a car for that now. You've been watching Salazar's Cars. Firstly, thank you so much. Secondly, you already know what this bad boy is. Our 140,000 mile, I call it a hell kitten. It's like a Hellcat, but, you know, a little slower. Sounds great though. We're on our way. Thank you so much for watching. And thanks for learning with me.